They call Turkana the cradle of mankind. It was along these shores that the earliest humans are thought to have lived. For millions of years the waters have provided. But they can also take away.
I
used to live at Longedge village, but when the lake flooded, the entire village was submerged.
In recent years, Lake Turkana has been expanding, driving many of the people who live around it from their homes. Atut Lokara takes us to where her house used to be. So your home was just here? Along with her 7 children and 2 grandchildren, she has twice been forced to move by rising waters.
The raging flood marooned us, and we had to move again after my house was submerged. I moved my things and left. Now I do some odd jobs for local fishermen, so my children and I survive.
Fishing sustains many people's lives here, but even that is said to be under threat from the flooding. The local fisherman's leader shows us where his offices used to be.
Hunger is a real danger here because the rising waters have disrupted the breeding of fish. Our children and livelihoods have been affected. Before this disaster hit us, we used to pay for school fees. Now, we are all languishing in poverty.
If you want to get a sense of just how high the water has risen, that is the top of a tree. And if you were to look below the surface, you'd see houses, the remnants of people's lives. But while there is far too much water in Lake Turkana, the strange thing is, just a few kilometres inland, this region is suffering one of the worst droughts in living memory. That's because this is not really a story about floods, but about the chaos caused by a changing climate.
We have had now 4 failed rainy seasons in this part of Kenya. The prediction is that this drought will continue through the next rainy season.
The Turkana Basin Institute became famous for its revelations about the origins of mankind. But the scientists here are increasingly concerned not just with our past, but our future as well.
This is unprecedented in recent history, to have 5 failed rainy seasons. It might even fail again next year, which will have pushed people to the point of complete collapse.
Drought and flooding at the same time? How is it possible? Well, a few years ago, the region received record levels of rain, especially in the highlands and rivers that feed into Lake Turkana. That has been followed by this unprecedented drought. It's also thought that tectonic activity in the Great Rift Valley might be having an impact. The negative consequences of all of these are now hitting the region at the same time.
Really what's happening here is an ecosystem that's undergoing change due to their extremes. A few years ago, we had more rainfall than we've had in decades. That rain would normally filter through the ecosystem slowly, but that is changing because of environmental degradation.
It's amazing to think that this barren landscape, all cracked earth and dust, used to be pasture. This used to be where the Turkana people who live nearby could graze their cattle, could graze their goats, but it's been left completely barren. This is what happens when you have 4 failed rains in a row. While man-made climate change is said to be a driving factor, the people of the region are not simply passive victims. Deforestation in the highlands and overgrazing have made a bad situation worse, creating a perfect storm that is pushing this nomadic way of life to the brink.
We lost many livestock to flooding after their grazing area was covered by flash floods. You can see the carcasses laying there. I settled here thinking the flooding was over. Now drought has hit my remaining animals. I have no place to go now. We are facing acute drought. Starvation is staring at us.
For some, the consequences are already here. Turkana is home to hundreds of thousands of displaced people. Most are refugees from neighbouring countries, but some, like Isuat and his mother Paulina, are from Turkana.
Drought has hit us really badly.
My children are sick with starvation and malnutrition. I try and sell charcoal to refugees to make a bit of money, but the economy is awful. The price of food is really high. We are struggling to survive. We get a meal a day or even sleep hungry.
She says the drought claimed her husband's life, not from starvation, but from the violence that scarcity creates.
I am a widow now. My husband was killed by raiders from South Sudan after they migrated due to the drought.
According to the International Rescue Committee, who run this place, things are likely to get worse.
People around here facing real famine and starvation. If nothing is done, we are likely to lose many children as a result of malnutrition.
There is no one simple solution to the problems facing this region, but there are some things that could ease the pressure. Now, this is a hydroponics garden. It's basically a fancy word for very efficient vertical irrigation. Now, this one was set up here at the Turkana Basin Institute initially to feed the people that live and work here. They're currently growing a form of local kale and some spinach, but they think as well as providing food for this campus, this could also be a solution to some of the many problems this region faces.
We can produce food sustainably and responsibly using the resources we have in Turkana and solve the problem of food insecurity, of hunger, and provide nutritious food that's produced in a way that's sustainable, that gives people dignity and responsibility over their food systems. In an ideal world, we would see these springing up all over Turkana, making use of the abundant water resources that are there in the ground, in the rivers, and sustainably producing food.
While ideas like that do offer some hope, Turkana is really a cautionary tale of what happens when the modern world collides with a delicate ecosystem and traditional way of life. Climate change is leading to increasingly extreme weather patterns, while a population explosion puts the land under intolerable pressure. There are real fears that this way of life, all of our shared past, may struggle to have a future.